Yeah.
Thanks for joining me today. What we've got is this thing here. This was a Volkswagen Polo, and it was not starting every time. It was an intermittent thing. The car had been into the garage, and the garage had looked at it and deemed it to be okay. They'd done a few repairs. They supposedly checked some connections, but the fault reoccurred, and it's no good. It's got to be reliable. So the customer wanted it changing, wanted a new starter motor fitting. So here we go. This is the one that I've taken off. I'll show you this, and then I'll show you the video of the fitting of the new one. But this is basically it. This is the starter motor that we've taken off. We'll have a good look at this, and we'll see if we can figure out what is the actual cause of why this is failing. So we'll have a little strip down and just see if we can figure it out. Straightforward enough to change, just one issue, which was with the gear selector. So let's get into the video. So here we go. Not a bad job, this one. We've got to get the airbox out of the way. So the first thing we're going to do is just remove that that clip there on the plastic pipe. Just give it a squeeze together and slide it down. It can be a little bit tight and a little bit tricky, but no great shape. We'll soon get that off of there. The starter motor, once I've got it off, like I say, I'm in the garage and I've got it there. I'm going to do a complete strip down on that motor. I'm going to take it right to bits so we can have a really good look inside it and see what's going on. These little clips on here can be a little bit tricky on this air intake pipe, but give it a squeeze, the little tabs, and pull them off, and then we can have that whole airbox out. It's just on rubber bushes at the bottom. You just give them a good tug and the box will come out. Next thing we've got to do is get rid of the battery, because the starter motor is right underneath that battery, underneath the battery casing as well. So we're going to take the battery carrier casing out. And this has got a 13mm clamp at the front. You just whip that out there, and then the two 10mm battery terminals. This just clips over the edges of the battery, and just give it a little wiggle and away it comes. Negative terminal off, and then we can pop the battery out. That now reveals this battery box casing. And that's only 3 13mm. Got two nuts and one bolt holding that in. So that's the two nuts out of the way. And then you've got the bolt in the middle there underneath a load of dirty old leaves. That's been there a few years. So we can pop that out as well. Again, these all came out nice and easy, no troubles. And we'll pull that plastic casing out of the way, and now we can actually see what we're looking at. And there's the starter motor. First thing we're going to do is remove the solenoid connector, which has got a little tab on the top there. You just pull that little tab back and push it, and then pull it off. It's a little bit fiddly, but look at that, focused on my sleeve rather than the job in hand. I'm sorry about that. Push the little plastic connector, like the retainer, back in there, ready for reinstallation. Okay, now we can take these two bolts out. Oh no, sorry, that's the solenoid, that's the main positive feed, that one. So we'll get the main positive feed off of there. 13mm nut again, so we can pop that out of the way. And now we've got the bottom mounting bolt. This one is a bit tricky to get at. This starter motor is only held in with two bolts. You've got one at the bottom and one at the top. So it's relatively easy to, once you've negotiated this one, what you've got on there was it was a 13mm bolt which holds the wire retaining clip, and then you've got this like 18mm big bolt which goes through into the engine block through the bell housing, which holds it all together. The top one only has the one bolt on there. The bottom one had another little nut on the top of it to just say to retain the cable clip, just to make everything look neat and tidy down the bottom. But now we've got that, we can get this big 18mm bolt out. It's a bit tight, it's a bit awkward to get at, but a bit of perseverance, a bit of fiddling, and a big hammer. Give it a whack, just to try and free it off a bit, and drop your spanner and watch them bang your hand and all the rest of it. But it is a little bit awkward to get on that one, but just to go, shifted it, look, now we can get it undone. And once we get it a couple of turns, it becomes nice and loose and get it out with your fingers. It's just getting it started, that's all. The biggest problem we're going to have in a minute is the gear selector, because the gear selector arm is in the way of the top bolt, which we shall negotiate in a minute, but we can just, like I say, get this bottom bolt out. Look, there we go, there it is. It's a big old sucker, look, because right the way through the whole lot. So that's that one out of the way, and it's just this top one now, which, like I say, this gear selector, it looks, you know, first of all, that you're going to get it out and it's going to be okay, but it's such a long bolt that when you start to remove it, it just gets in the way of this gear selector and you can't fully get it out, which we will, like I say, you'll see in a minute. The way to overcome it was to release the little 13mm bolt on the gear selector and just lift it slightly. So you can see here, look, you think you're going to have enough, you can lift it up, down, round and round. I've fiddled with it and you just couldn't get it out. It would not shift, look, would not come out. Thinking, what a pain, what a stupid design. You know, fancy that. Here, look. How many times can you wiggle it and figgle it and thinking you're going to get it out? Because it's so close, you think, oh, if I could just move that a little bit more, I'll get it out. But no, there you go. So can't you tell this is the first one of these I've changed on a Polo. So here we go, 13mm little nut on top of the gear selector there, right on top of the gearbox. We can grab hold of that whole selector on there, give it a little wiggle, and it will actually just slide off its spline on the top of that gearbox. We haven't got to take it all the way off, we just want to shift it up a little bit. It is a spline and it will come up. And it did go back on nice and easy as well with no messing, so it's nothing to fear. Don't fear about taking it off. It's not going to just, you know, cock everything up. It is, once it shifts, there we go, look, that's off of there. It has got a little tab on it as well, so it looks like it'll only go back on one way, so you're not going to mess it up, you're not going to get it on in completely the wrong place. But now that is lifted slightly, we haven't got to take it right off, just enough. There you go, look, just to raise it up, and now the bolt will, if I get my fingers in there, and not the camera, oh blimey, look, smash the camera now, you can't see what I'm doing. Here we go, come on, let's get it out. Oh, he's fumbling now, he's fumbling. Come on, just lift it up and get the bolt out. God blimey, what's going on here? Here we go, look, that's the way to do it. And now the starter motor just literally comes straight out, that is it. I mean, how easy was that? This is the two, I'm just going to compare them. That's obviously the old one and this is the new one. So let's just make sure before we go any further that they are exactly the same, because you never know. You know, not 100% when you buy a starter motor. There's a few different variants on the cars. Always worth just putting them side by side, having a look and making sure they're both the same. This one here, look, I'm happy with that already. I've pulled the tab off it. Just making sure the solenoid plugs are the same. So you can see on this starter motor, it's a little bit of a different design. I don't know if you've ever seen a starter motor before. The end on it here, it's got the gearing right on the end of it. Whereas sometimes you would have a little casing that comes round and the cog sits in the middle. This sits in the flywheel. This one itself, it's actually pinging straight out. See how that comes out there? When the starter motor is engaged, the solenoid pushes a lever which pushes that and engages that into the flywheel. Nice and compact though, a real compact unit. Right, and here we go. So this is our dodgy old starter motor. So inside here we've got the single terminal which ignites the solenoid from the ignition switch. So we put 12 volts down there. The solenoid should then ping in with a positive feed there. It'll send a positive feed out down this braided wire into the motor. The motor then makes a circuit through the body, which is the earth, and it should rotate. So that's the basics of it all. Let's get this clamped in the vise on the workbench here. And we'll give ourselves a good earth there, give it a wiggle in there. There we go. So let's connect those up first. I've got 12 volts. Yeah? Whoa. Right, okay, we've got some good power there. So let's get the first one. That is as positive there on the top. The earth, we're going to go to the body. Well, that's going to be the vice and everything else. So let's just connect that up there like that. So we're earthing now through the vice, through the body. There is a circuit. So if I now put 12 volts feed into this solenoid here, it should activate this solenoid and power up the motor. That's what we're hoping for. I think I just need to drop that down so you can actually see what's going on top. Can you see that now? Right, so I've got a little terminal, I've got a piece of wire. Let's just go in here, we'll strip out the end of that. Like that. Let's get some crimping tools. So we'll just twist the end of that up there. Stick that through the terminal. Crimp that up. And then let's have a pair of long nose pliers. And we can stuff that onto the little terminal inside there. Okay, that's on there. Right. Let's strip the end off that one. I can use the wire strippers on here as well. Give ourselves a bit of... Right, here we go. So what we've got then now, if we connect this 12 volt feed now going into the solenoid there to the 12 volts, it should bang come into action. And it's working. But can you see that there? Can you see that happening? Yeah, look at the smoke coming out of there. When this would have the load of the engine on it, that connector there would not have the power to turn it. And we've got a bad connection there. So if I now put a volt drop across it, it'll actually show us what the problem is. So, which is what I originally thought. I thought it was going to be something like this. This is a normal problem, is the corrosion from this braided wire to the solenoid often causes issues. But considering this had been in the garage for a repair and had supposedly been fixed, they obviously didn't do a very good job on it. So let's have a little look then and see what we're going to do. Let's get a voltage drop test across there. So let's get the voltmeter. Basically, this is going to show us in a visual way that we've got a bad connection, because let me just prove a couple of things. I'll show you why volt drop test is so good. So here we go. Let's just get that on there a second. So at the minute we're on, that's AC volts, we're on DC volts, which is what we want because we're on DC system. So if I go across there, look, 12.8 volts. So that's good. That's a perfect voltage there. It's a perfect volt drop test because the two leads there have got just a piece of metal between them. So if you can imagine, a perfect circuit would go in through the solenoid, back out again. Because there's no circuit there at the minute, it's a really bad circuit because we haven't even started the circuit yet. We've got 12 volts, which is basically going from that to earth. Okay, so that is showing us that everything beyond the earth circuit is good because we've got a full 12 volts with no change there. That is battery voltage. So if I now ignite this I hold those two together and then I ignite the starter motor, what we should see on there is 0. You can see the smoke coming out of there, and that went to, I think it was 0.7 of a volt, which is showing us that we've got a voltage loss within this circuit of 0.7 of a volt. We can really isolate this down now. If I can go from the center pin of that to that point there, it's going to tell us the voltage drop across this piece of braided wire in this connection here. So if I can get a decent connection on that there, must make sure that's right the way through to the copper, and do the same test again now. Look at that. We've got across that connection there, we've got a 2.8 volt drop across that connection, which is showing us that is really bad connection. So we know it is anyway, because we can actually see the little spark that's occurring, and we can see the smoke coming up as well. Let's undo this nut, redo the connection. Sometimes if this is corroded too badly, or it's corroded inside, it'll actually twist out and break. So let's give it a go. I'm going to put a little bit of lube on it to start with. So I'll just drop a little bit of lube on that connection there. You can see how hot that is. Look, it's smoking. And let's get a little socket. I'll have a little 13mm socket here. And we'll just undo that there. We'll try to. I'm not sure whether it's turning the whole thing or just that. Ooh, I don't know. I just think the whole lot's turning there. Yeah, that's had it. That's absolutely had it. Look, as I'm undoing that now, the whole shaft inside the solenoid is spinning, which is not allowing me to get this nut off. So I'm turning that, look, and that nut isn't coming out. So I would now say that that is broken inside, and we might even find that this isn't going to work at all now. Let's have a look. There you go, look, it's completely shot it now. The only thing that's happening, the solenoid is shooting the lever on and pushing that out, but it's lost the power feed to the motor, and we've just got a wicked spark in there. So we need to separate that, but yeah, that is a real pain. Let's see what we can do regarding stripping it down, stripping the solenoid down. Let's see if we can't release it and have a look inside. Let's have a little look. So the solenoid itself there has got 2 Torx bits. Oh, for goodness sake, man. Yeah, we don't put things away properly, like. And not creating, have we? Let's just crank these out of here, see if we just can't separate this. You see that coming out the back now? Okay. Now you can see the solenoid part there. And if I put a spanner on here, it's actually the whole, oh, the threads have gone. The threads in this nut have actually gone. It's not the center pin that's turning. It's the nut itself. Hasn't got any thread on it. So I'd say that the thread on this center nut here must have been arcing and actually either corroded it away, because it is literally just spinning like without coming off, which also means when you try to do it up, it's obviously not going to do up any tighter because there's no threads there. So what I can now do is probably cut this. I might be able to cut this bolt away with a little I might be able to cut it away with the saw. That arm there just literally works backwards and forwards and pushes out the bendix at the end there. So I've got my old faithful hacksaw there. Now let's just see if I can nick that out of there. Don't leave anything lying around when he's got his hacksaw out, look. Fingers, hands, toolbox, nothing safe. Oh, I've cut through the flipping whole lot. What an idiot. Oh, don't drop it on the floor. It's a good job it's a good tool, isn't it? Look at that, it still works. You're going to have to dropping it off the shelf. There we go. That's that nut out of there. So now you can actually see the full extent of the problem, which is that the threads on the bottom of that solenoid there are non-existent. They've completely corroded away, which was stopping that nut from coming down tight onto the braided wire that goes to the starter motor, and that's why it failed. Let's strip down the rest of this motor, so let's have a quick look inside here and see what we've got going on, because we've got it in bits. We might as well go the whole log and take it to pieces and see what's going on inside it. Let's try and take this top casing off of here as well. Let's whip them out of there, see if we can get this backing off the motor. That's one. Two. I mean, these start motors nowadays get such a hammering, especially with stop-start systems and stuff. There we go. It wants to come out from the bottom end, looking at that. Okay, here's his motor. So the whole motor assembly is literally just come away from that there, with that tiny little gear in there. Let's have a look and see what's going on here. So now we've got that out of there, we can take off this little plastic shim there. Can we get this whole thing out here as well now? Let's have a look. Oh, okay, this is the eccentric gearing. So this has got a gear reducer here. The gearing on the motor there comes in here to drive. There's 3 cogs in there. Can you see those all turning there when I rotate that? So this here is a reducing gear. Can we get that out? Can we release this? Can we get this whole thing out of here? Here we go, look. So the whole thing comes out the casing like that. You can now see the solenoid is onto, which pushes that Bendix in and out there. So now we can separate those two as well, or we should be able to definitely get that out of there. I'll get a screwdriver in there and actually pull the cap off of that. There we go. Right, and now you can actually see. There you go, you see how it's working. Basically though, it's just gearing down the motor. Right, let's have a look a bit further, see if we can get the rest of this out of here. We should be able to just release that from the back there. Here we go. Right, and so, oh, there we go, look. So, at the back there, we've got us brushes. 4 nice brushes there. That's your brush pack then, which goes on to this. I think that's the stator inside there. You can see all those, the windings there. As they touch, it creates the force, which creates it to spin. I mean, these have got plenty of life left in them. Look, these have hardly, there's lots of wear. They will wear down, but you've still got, you know, 8 mil or so on those to go. You see, you could, if it was just the braiding, you could resolder a new braided wire to that terminal there that goes into this brush pack. You can just see the springs and the assembly now. It's all wired up, look. So 2 of these brushes go to earth. They're actually, so 2 are earth, look, and 2 are positive, which is how you get your circuit through the motor. This now will come out the magnets. Oh, that's magnetic field inside there. Look at those magnets tucked away inside there. And this is the windings, look. Here's his motor windings. Look how small that is. You wouldn't believe that is spinning an engine. That motor there, that tiny little motor is enough to rotate a car engine. How good is that? But look at the complexity of the windings in there, how nicely they're all coated. That's just one beautiful, beautiful piece of engineering, that. Absolutely delightful. And look at these little shafts here. The whole stress of starting the engine runs through these 2 little shafts. Incredible. So again, now you can see that in action. That sits inside there. That's fixed. So you can see the gearing now, look. For every rotation of this, so that's half a turn. That's 1 turn. How tiny amount the actual Bendix turns. So you can imagine how fast this has to spin to rotate the engine. Look at how that's geared down, look, and you can see those gears rotating. It's fantastic, isn't it? Brilliant. And obviously that's flicking in and out to the into the engine there. The throw of that will flick that out along with the solenoid. When the solenoid engages, it pushes that in and also spins the motor at the same time. It's great, isn't it? Obviously the solenoid was sitting inside there, which is just a magnetic solenoid, which again, just like I say, it just pings that out. So it's doing two jobs. It's throwing the Bendix in as well as engaging the motor. That is it. That is your starter motor. So common faults with a starter motor is going to be things like burnt out windings. Very rare, but could happen. The brushes wear down, brushes wear out. The actual solenoid itself can stick inside there, so it clunks, clunk, 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 won't move. The other one as well is if the Bendix has stuck, if that's not allowed to flick out because it's stuck within there, that will obviously stop this from throwing all the way out. So you're not going to get the electrical connection going on. So it can be confusing. It could be the Bendix that's stuck, but then you think there's no power getting through, and it's the solenoid that's sticking, where it's not. It's actually the Bendix that's sticking. That's sort of main issues, and obviously the one that we've got today was the on the solenoid, the bad connection in there, which feeds through into the brushes, powers up the motor. Here comes one of them. There's a magnet, and we can actually, and that is creating, put the electro field through the windings against the magnets, creates the spin. They're not that strong, to be fair. Right, what I'm going to do now, you can't separate this without damaging it, so I'm just going to hack the top off it so we can have a good look inside this solenoid. Yeah, come on, off you come. Beautiful. Now you can actually see what's inside here. We've got copper plate there, and you can actually see how this has been wearing through. The arcing has actually worn away that copper plate there. Two contacts there. You see the one that was destroyed. It's just literally the only thing that's stopping that from spinning is it molded into this plastic housing. So it just sits in there like that, fixed. And as we put the feed into the windings through the little terminal there, which goes through and into the outer windings on the body, creates that electrical field, pushes the solenoid up, creates a contact between the two pins on the back, which is feeding the motor, and that there is where all the power is going through. And you can see how it's worn away the two contacts. So this one is quite badly worn, look. Every time you press the starter motor, it's just literally going making a contact between the two pins. It's as simple as that. There you have it. I hope you've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed taking that to bits. That was quite good fun, wasn't it? Right, let's get back to the car. Let's have this new starter motor fitted. So first thing we're going to do is just pop them two mounting bolts through and then get this gear selector back down again. We just say, you slide it on and do that bolt back up again. Job done. New motor's in. Just reconnect up the positive feed. Just slip that on there, do that up nice and firm, not too tight. As we now know, it's only mounted in plastic. We don't want to get too mad with it, do we? We'll put the little casing on there. We'll connect the reconnect. We'll connect the main solenoid feed up to it. We'll get the battery casing back in again. It's just literally putting it back in reverse to how we took it out. Nice and straightforward. Pop down those battery casing bolts. Nip them up. Got that old Milwaukee ratchet look. I love this ratchet. I know I keep saying it every time I see it, but I do. It's a fantastic bit of kit. Then we can drop the battery back in. We'll put the airbox back in again. That just literally pushes down onto its rubbers and they just pop in. And then we can reconnect up the air intake pipe. Using them big grips again there just to slip that back on again. It's got dark quick, I tell you. I know the nights at the minute are getting shorter. Summer's on its way again, but it's still within an hour it's gone from light to being dark. We can just connect up that fuse box assembly there. Connect up the negative feed again. Just give it a little tap and then nip that up. Then we can pop in his battery retaining bracket down the front there. That's 13mm. You just lift that back down again. And that's that up. Fantastic job. Now we'll give it a go. Let's see if it starts. Fingers crossed. Hopefully not. Turn the key. Come on, baby. Oh yes. Make sure we check it's in neutral because we did touch that gear selector, so we've got to make sure it's in neutral before we turn the key. Oh, sweet as a nut. Purring away like a kitten. Listen to that beauty. And there's that starter motor tucked away down there, nice and new. And a good Bosch unit as well, and nice decent starter motor in there. So that was the starter motor changed over. We've put the new one on there. Everything's as good as gold, no more issues at all. At least the customer's happy. It's going to be reliable, and she's not going to, have to worry anymore. We could have had a go at repairing this. We could have had a go at, doing the connections and stuff. But the garage had already had an attempt at it, and last thing we want to do is to send the car away and it be breaking down again. So replace it with a new one to be on the safe side. There you go. It's just one of those. If this video's been of use, if you enjoyed it, then just drop me a little thumbs up and like, subscribe. Thanks for watching.